great.
What are your influences? Being a bass player, you must have many.
Bass influences? Yes, there are many.
I thought you were going to say yes, like Chris Squire.
Yeah, Chris Squire. We
yes.
just lost Chris Squire. No, but Yes was my father's favorite band. It
Really?
continues to be. He's a huge... Wow. I don't know what they call it.
Yes head.
Jinx.
It's better than being a meth
Jinx.
head.
So I when I first picked up... the first thing I ever played was The Chain by Fleetwood Mac. That's the first thing I played on any instrument. When I first found my bass in the attic, I brought it down. My dad goes, try this. And then I sat there for a few hours and played that. Started out on that sort of Yes, Zeppelin, Kansas type rock, Metallica. It wasn't too long until I started getting into the jazz. And being an electric bassist, that was primarily, Jocko, Stanley, and Victor Wooten.
The triumvirate, yeah.
When I first heard the album "A Show of Hands" by Victor Wooten, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's just straight bass tracks, first takes, and it blew my mind. And I've never come anywhere close to it, but that's kind of what that kind of expanded. These are the things that I can do. I can do more than just
quarter notes.
The Chuck Rainey. But in my own personal playing, like in a band situation, I like to try to reflect sort of the Chuck Rainey, the Donald Duck Dunn, great player. Kind of get an R&B feel.
No Geddy Lee on that list?
Geddy Lee would definitely be up there in the Chris Squire section. So bass. Then there are too many to mention. Really. Tony Levin. No, there are too many to mention. But musically, I've been drawing a lot of my influence from. I've always loved bluegrass. Like that's just in my playing. Like if I take a solo, I'll always. I feel like a lot of that comes through. I kind of grew up around that. With that was what my grandfather listened to and what his old timer friends always gathered around and played. So I soaked that up at a pretty young age, and I still listen to it today. I'm really into sort of the pioneers, like the guys pushing.
Interesting, I didn't know that.
The Punch Brothers, the Belas.
Punch Brothers, big fans. You guys, you and your friend Tyler, and I never heard of the Punch Brothers until I met you guys. And
he's a big
I get
fan.
to go see them, but they're awesome apparently.
Oh yeah,
they're incredible.
I've seen them I don't know, 6 or 7 times now, catching the free shows in Brooklyn and Manhattan.
So drummers.
Oh, okay. Well, a little background history too, because it really kind of colors what I do. I'm the second drummer in Mythology. So I'm coming to this from a totally different perspective than these guys who wrote a lot of the material that I then learned. I replaced my good friend Jason Turner, who was their original
Rest in
drummer.
peace. No, I'm just kidding. He's still alive.
He played on their first 2 records. I did some singing and some percussion on their second record.
Mm-hmm.
But
thank you, by the way.
You're welcome. But so coming in, this was a chance for me to kind of drum a little bit more. The other projects I was in, I'm much more restrained, and I don't get to fool around as much. Most of the time I have to be one of the lead singers, if not the lead singer, and that really kind of changes what I do. But I really enjoyed their material before I joined the band, and
we were in neighboring bands.
Well, sure. We were in a band together. We were in a cover band called the Jerk Faces.
Well, your ATZ days.
Yeah, but
we always did shows together.
We've been
so we knew each other and we respected each other.
I've known Dane for a long time.
We ran in the same crews.
Yeah, we were.
But coming to join them was great for me because I got to, play a little bit more, do more of my influences on the other side of the scale. A lot of people know me from my punk rock stuff and my classic rock stuff, but I listen to a lot of crazy music. So when I'm playing with them, I'm mostly if you were to ask me influences for this band, I'm more towards like one of the popular, really jazzy people, like Manu Katché. John Dillmayan from System of a Down. It's really because of him that we called Armenian Blues No. 5. I gave it that throwaway title because I've been listening.
Well, yeah, because when something's instrumental, you can call it anything.
So they were like, "Oh, what are we calling this?" I didn't think they were even going to keep it, and I was like, "Armenian Blues No. 5." And
you don't say things like that to me, and
right. So, but they kept it. So a lot of him also,
i.e., the chicken wings
on this record. I really feel like this is my hi-hat ride record. I got to really explore those stuff. So a lot of Stewie Copeland for me on this record. Stewie Copeland, and also, a lot of their other music was very, very bombastic, and so it got me to be. I really love John Theodore. I used to play with the Mars Volta. He's a big influence on me when I'm playing with them. But also Mitch Mitchell. He's one of my favorite drummers of all time because of his real jazzy stuff. And there's a track that we were talking about before, To Those Who Lost. I really got my Mitch Mitchell vibe on that song. Nice. And so it's like people like Manu and Steve Gadd for the more jazzy stuff.
Now I noticed on the new Satriani album he replaced Jonathan Mover.
Steve Gadd did?
No, and his previous drummer with Marco Miniman.
Oh, really?
You fan of Marco?
Yeah, no, I know his work. He's really awesome. But that's not the first person I would have thought to play with them. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, he's got Mike Keneally on guitar.
Oh, yeah.
And keys.
Mr. Hat.
Well, let's talk about the first track on the new record. What's it called?
On Mythology 3, the opening track is called Swashbuckling Swashbucklers, and it also contains a midsection. It's an excerpt from a piece that me and my friend Brynen wrote called Duck, and it was based on who the hell was that guy? It was a poet. It was a poem from the 1800s called "When Father Carves the Duck," we based it around a Family Matters episode in which Steve Urkel recites this to his class. We all looked on with anxious eyes when Father carves the duck. And yeah, it's just him and I are just completely silly together. We are brothers in the most truest kindred way possible. Without
Brian, there would be no Mythology.
It's true,
because Brynen would never have known each other.
It's true.
Brian was my next door neighbor. We were childhood friends.
Right.
That's how I met Brynen.
Right, because Dane lived right behind Brian, and so I wanted to take that because I wanted to do more cinematic stuff as well. But then I didn't want to completely steal Brian's parts because it was a collaborative effort. So I wanted to use the parts that I wrote, which is pretty much the entire intro to Duck, which is this bombastic prog rock fantasy epic. So I wanted to use the parts that I wrote as to not be a complete dick and steal the parts that we worked on together, because that would have been not good.
He'd send his lawyers after us.
Yeah.
What kind of bass you play on this track? Do you remember?
He's an Ibanez guy.
The entire album is a one bass. It's my Ibanez Ergo 9. I've had it for about
as long as I can
10
remember.
10 years at least.
Yeah. And guitars on this track?
12 years actually.
I used I'm also an Ibanez guy. I used an Ibanez semi-hollow, the AS73, which has been my main axe for about 4 years now. And for the midsection, I used a what the hell is it called? It's a classical guitar, but it's a Lucero, I think the brand name is. So it's kind of a cheaper guitar, but I bought it when I was 18 just because I had no money, but I loved nylon string guitars because I went through a phase where I grew my fingernails out,
Oh, right, sure.
And I only did classical guitar for a couple of years, and then I got back into the pick and more electric stuff. But yeah, I used a classical guitar in the midsection and then a semi-hollow for everything else, which is kind of funny because people see you bust out a semi-hollow and they expect you to do Larry Carlton type stuff, and then you do something that borderlines metal, or something really Bumblefoot-esque. It's what the hell just came out of that guitar? You're not supposed to do that on that guitar. It's well, watch me, but.
Now, did you stay with the Ibanez theme and go with Tama drum hardware? Or no?
Yeah.
There might have been some Tama hardware on there. I used, I think he had a Slingerland kit at the studio that we tracked at, which was nice for me.
Yeah.
It was a nice vintage kit. Really influenced how I played on the record because it wasn't my kit. And I enjoyed that. And so it really helped me focus my parts, and it gave me things that I wasn't used to. He had a really great splash cymbal that I utilized a lot, which was really nice. And so it was a nice guy. I really enjoyed tracking. It was all in one room too, which was really great.
So we got to look at each other,
really,
feel each other.
It felt, this album, the thing I loved the most about it was that it was such a collaborative effort in terms of like the performances were really like driven by the fact that we're all in the same room, and that it was all the meat of the tracks were done live.
It was a very streamlined process too, because everything, like the drums were set up. We didn't waste any time.
And Bob knows how to mic his kit like immaculately.
You know how it is in the studio. You walk in, you spend 3 hours just setting everything up, and then you're totally like.
And you've already spent like $300.
Yeah, it was really nice to just kind of go in and start woodshedding, and it really helped.
Right.
We walked in, and in 5 minutes we were playing, and then in 10 minutes he was recording.
And that's always good because I think essentially we are a live band. So like to be in like an ISO booth, it's very cold, and I don't. Well, with the acoustic stuff, I had to be in the other room just because the.
I think you can always tell when the band's playing live. There's a certain organic interaction between the members that takes place, and especially when you're friendly, you've known each other, you play live a lot. That groove and that pocket is harder to achieve if you're multi-tracking independently with headphones.
Mm-hmm. And it's very tangible too.